Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Exit to Excel. My name is LaTonya. They call me LT, and I am your untraditional HR business partner and your secret weapon. Now, if you've been following me, then you know that I've spent 25 years in HR and I've been on both sides of the table. I have laid off thousands of people over the course of my career, but I've also been laid off 4 times over the course of my career. Now, have you been paying attention to what's been going on in the news regarding the state of the job market? The BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, reported that the economy less than added 911,000 fewer jobs from April 2024 through March 2025 than had been previously reported. Did you hear what I said? 911,000 fewer jobs. That's almost a million fewer jobs. So that's one thing. The second thing is the unemployment rate rose to 4.3% in August, reaching its highest level since 2021. Another fact, job growth slowed dramatically. Only 22,000 jobs were added in August. And unfortunately, the duration of unemployment is, lasting longer. And Black people and Hispanic and Latino people are the ones being the hardest hit. Now, I'm also going to share something else with you, having been in HR, that you may not know. Typically, companies tend to have their biggest layoffs in October. And why? It's because they're trying to meet their year-end numbers. So in one of the companies I worked in, we used to call it Black October because we knew that we were going to be gearing up. We were going to be busy preparing for these mass layoffs. So, being that we're in September, October's around the corner. Unfortunately, I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel right now. Not right now. So because of this, I feel like it's worth going back and having the discussion again about the first 48 hours you are laid off, right? Whether you're notified or that's your last day, those first 48 hours are so critical. And they're critical because I've seen so many people make costly mistakes because of the things they did or they didn't do in those first 48 hours. I've seen them, miss out on money. I've seen them miss out on time, and I've seen them miss out on good opportunities. But the good news is that every single one of these mistakes is preventable as long as you know how to prepare and what to look out for. So that's what I want to talk about today. Today, I want to talk about what not to do within those first 48 hours. Now, mistake number one is making emotional decisions immediately. Okay. Now, I get it. When you are informed that your services are no longer needed, you get hot, you can't think, your mouth gets dry. Like I said, I've been there. I remember one time I was laid off and I was completely caught off guard. I actually worked down the street from where I lived. And they told me that morning. And the next thing I remembered, I was sitting at home in my living room staring at a blank TV. I can't even tell you how I got home. I mean, I know I walked home, but I did not remember the walk back home. It was all a blur. So when you're in that state, you're in a state of shock. I mean, it's understandable. So the last thing you want to do is make any emotional decisions. Now, I get it. During that time, you feel the need to do something, but your brain literally is not functioning properly during that time. You're flooded with stress hormones. So it's not the time to be making any permanent decisions. I remember it was a woman we had laid off. She was a senior director. She immediately signed her paperwork, even though I reminded her that we did not need it then, but she wanted to sign it. She went home. We saw her change her status on LinkedIn, stating that, she had been laid off and she was open to work. And then even by the next day, her messages got even more frantic. So the lesson here, the rule, no major decisions within those first 48 hours, period. Okay. Mistake number two, not reading the fine print. If you're offered a severance, more than likely it's going to be given to you as a document. And mind you, it is a legal document. And there are some companies who are counting on you not to read the fine print. They want to give it to you and say, hey, here's your paperwork. Hey, it's standard language. So if you want to, you can go ahead and sign it. We'll go ahead and accept it. And they'll want you to go ahead and sign it so that you can get your pay very quickly. Don't do that. Do not do that. So let me explain something else to you. If you're over the age of 40, we are protected by what they call the OWBPA, the Older Workers Benefits Protection Act. This act mandates that if you are part of a single layoff, you have 21 days to review your paperwork and sign it to get it back. We call that the consideration period. Also, once you sign it, there is a 7-day revocation period, meaning that you have 7 days to come back and say, you know what? I changed my mind. I don't want to sign it. Now, if you are part of a layoff that had 2 or more people, we consider that a mass layoff, you have 45 days to sign your paperwork. And the revocation period, the 7 days, is still the same. So know that this law is in place and it is a law to protect you. We are also obligated, whoever gives you the paperwork, and they may not tell you this verbally, but it should be in your paperwork. We are obligated to advise you to seek the counsel of an attorney or a trusted friend before you sign it. But again, everybody's not going to do that, but it is absolutely your right. And I advise you to do just that. Now, if you're under the age of 40, there aren't any protections like that in place. Most companies I've seen, though, typically give people anywhere between 10 and 21 days, depending on whether it was a single layoff or 2 or more. So you don't have the protections that, the people 40 and above do. But nonetheless, you still want to take your time. Because one thing I've learned is that your severance is negotiable. And you want to be able to go through it with a fine tooth comb to see where maybe you might have some leverage and where maybe there are some things that may not be fair on its face value. So your action item here, do not sign anything on your layoff day. Tell them that you need time to review it with an attorney or a trusted friend. And remember, that is your right, not a favor. Now, mistake number 3 is isolating yourself. People who go into hiding. And look, I get it. When you're let go from a job, when you're told your services are no longer needed, you're embarrassed. There's a lot of shame. When I was laid off the first time from Merck, I remember walking through the hallways, having to get to my garage, really just wanting to cover my face, hoping that no one saw me because I was so embarrassed. I was questioning my worth and I was wondering what people would think. But the reality is, especially in today's market, it's not uncommon and it's not anything to be ashamed of. But what isolation is a career death trap in today's market. The people who tend to land on their feet the quickest are the people who immediately start activating their network. So instead of going into hiding, what I want you to do is reach out to 3 or 5 trusted people in your professional network. You can reach out to them within 24 hours and not to ask them for a job, but just to let them know what's going on with you. Say, hey, I was impacted by a layoff today, but I'm okay. I'll be in touch. But what you'll find is that those people are going to give you the space, a couple of days to kind of get your head together. And then they're going to reach out to you. And more than likely, they've already been kind of inquiring around and thinking about who they might could connect you with to help you land your next opportunity. But the last thing you want to do is go into permanent hiding and isolating yourself. Now, mistake number 4 is the dreaded social media and posting on social media too quickly. Now, I see this all the time. Someone gets laid off, and within a few hours, they've already got that open to work ring, and they're putting this long post about, unfortunately, I was impacted by a layoff today. I'm open to new opportunities. Or even worse, they go on a rant about their company or their post. Stop it. Okay. Because mind you, this is the same platform. More than likely, you're going to be networking and looking for another job. And we can see those timestamps. And when employers see those kinds of posts so quickly, it comes off as desperation and a person who is making decisions under, emotional decisions under pressure, and a person who doesn't have a plan. That's not a person that we want. We want someone who has done their research about the company, they understand the culture, and they understand the value that they bring. You don't know that necessarily within the first 2 hours that you've been notified that you have been impacted. So take your time, take the 48 hours, be strategic about your post at that point so that you're operating from a position of strategy and not emotion desperation. Okay. Now, mistake number 5, not documenting everything. I cannot tell you how many layoff meetings I've had with people and they don't write down a thing. They think, oh, I don't need to write anything down. I'm going to, remember everything. Or you're going to send this to me in an email, right? So they feel like that they don't need to write anything down. Don't do that. Okay. You still want to take your own notes and you want to write them down because, again, you're in a state of shock and more than likely you're not going to remember everything because your memory is compromised. So here's what I want you to do instead. Write down exactly everything that was said in the meeting. I want you to write down who was there and the time and what was said. If there are any verbal promises made about your severance, about references to transition, you need to document that. Okay. You want to, again, note the time and the exact location of the meeting as well. Also, very important, if you have an opportunity, save, retrieve, and forward any relevant documentation from your personal records, your emails, your files. You'll want to retrieve those immediately because some companies, as soon as you're notified, we have it timed. And look, I know because in my last company, as soon as we notify somebody, your access is cut off immediately. Some will have your access cut off within like 24 hours. If you can find out what that cutoff period is before you're notified, that's even better. And even better is if you're already starting to collect those things before you're notified. Just a heads up, I'm just telling you. But you'll definitely want to save or forward any relevant emails to your personal account if you're able to do so. And if you have a physical working space, keeping anything that is yours, that is rightfully yours, that you can put into your brag book or whatever the case may be. Okay. But you definitely want to document everything that you can. Mistake number 6, not asking the right questions. Again, having conducted so many meetings, I've had so many meetings where, you ask people, do you have any questions? No. Mm-mm. People are angry. Mm-mm. No, they got an attitude. They shut down and they leave without getting critical information. Now, for the most part, we are going to send everything to you, but there is still some immediate questions that you should have that you either want to validate or confirm before you leave the meeting. So here is your must ask list. One is, what is the official reason for my layoff? Now, there's going to be a reason documented on your severance agreement, but typically your manager or the HR person will add a little bit more context to that. And that is what you want to hear from them, and that is what you'll want to write down. Secondly, am I eligible for rehire? That's good to know. Third, what do you tell reference checkers? So typically companies are going to have a policy in terms of what they can provide in references. And typically it's only your position and your dates of service. We can't say whether you were a good or a bad employee. Um, I don't know. People may treat the rehire question differently, but we may not even be able to disclose that. And we definitely can't disclose your compensation without your permission. But it's good to know exactly what your company's policy is as it relates to reference checkers. Another important question: when does my health insurance end? If you have health insurance during from the company, very important to know. Now, most companies, your benefits will terminate the last day of the month of your unemployment. So let's say, for example, today is September the 9th. If I was notified today, my benefits would run until September the 30th, and that would be the last day that I would have active benefits through the company. Okay. But it may be different for your company, so it's good to know. Another question you want to ask: what happens to my 401k? What are my options? And then lastly, can I get a written reference letter now, or can you provide me with a LinkedIn endorsement? Now, let me speak on this for a minute. LinkedIn endorsements are so key and are almost like gold. And if you are meeting with your manager or, in contact with your manager during this period, for the most part, they want to help you out. I would get their commitment then for a LinkedIn endorsement. And as people ask you, is there anything I can do? If it's someone that you've worked with, ask them for a LinkedIn endorsement. That is probably one of the best things that a person can do for you. And if you're watching this as a person who has worked with somebody who's been impacted, then do that for them. It will mean the world. Now, if you've been impacted, to make it easy for people, because sometimes it's hard to start from scratch, I would draft it for them, or at least provide them with some bullet points to remind them of a project you worked on, a challenge you overcame, an award you got, or whatever the case may be. Provide that to them because they will be so appreciative, and it will increase their chances of actually following through on that. But if you can get that commitment right when you are notified, then again, that is all the more better, and is all, the more likely that they will do that for you. Okay. So that is all I have for you today. Like I said, I'm afraid, and again, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but considering the state that we're in right now and the state of the economy, and, the tariffs and automation, and, just the uncertainty of things, unfortunately, I think the unemployment forecast is going to be a little bit bleak. And so I just want you to be prepared and to protect yourself. So make note of these do nots. When I come back the next time, I'm going to give you a list of to-dos. And I'm also working on some resources that you can have on hand so that when you are in these meetings, or you're anticipating that you're going to be impacted, you have this ready at the gate. Because you know what I like to say, if you're ready, you don't have to get ready. And in this day and time, you can't leave anything to chance. So with that, I wish you well, and I'll see you the next time on Exit to Excel. And remember, even if you are laid off, it's not your limitation. It's just the starting of a great launching pad. All right. So take care. See you soon.